Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Ben, this is Books with Bengus Khan, and today I have for you my March 2023 reading wrap-up, and it was a fantastic reading month, a top 5 one in terms of just number of pages read, but that was because so much of what I was reading was just ridiculously engaging. I never wanted to stop reading or listening, and so yeah, some of my maybe favorite reads of all time, and one absolutely brutal, horrible, awful read that was very disappointing, so I'll get to that later on. Alright, but first I want to mention that I got a little bit farther in the Richard Sharpe series by Bernard Cornwell. That's his Napoleonic War era historical fiction series. They're all about 300 pages, they're fast-paced, full of fantastic battle action, fun character stuff going on all over the place. These are two that are taking place in France, right before the Battle of Waterloo. So I think this is number 18 and number 19 in the series, Sharpe's Siege and Sharpe's Revenge. And even when he's kind of straying away from the historical battles and just doing fictionalized adventure plots, I was so engaged. I've spent so long with Sharpe. I also did these mostly on audio because the narrator, Rupert Farley, is one of the best I've ever heard. And it's just so fun listening to him. So yeah, I'm kind of sad the journey's coming to an end soon, but Waterloo is next, and I've been waiting to get to that climactic battle of the wars for so long. So, excited for that. One that I read early on in the month that was a bit of a disappointment was Untethered Sky by Fonda Lee. That's her new release, standalone fantasy novella. I was not really in the mood for a coming-of-age story that straddles the line between young adult and adult, and it's single POV, really heavy on just character study and the internal kind of emotional life of this main character. And it's about this teenage girl who's becoming this trainer and hunting companion for this very large predatory bird, and this kingdom uses these birds to hunt the very deadly manticore beasts. And the whole story is very heavy on hunting and just really not much that held my interest. It was fine, and it was fairly short, and I think if you're in the mood for this kind of story and character study, it could be great, but definitely not what I was wanting at that moment. But what I was in the mood for was A Song of Ice and Fire, and I spent so much of this month in Westeros. I mean, when I look at this stack, this is how many pages I spent in Westeros this month with Clash of Kings, Fire and Blood, Storm of Swords, and the first novella in A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. And I had a blast. So, Clash of Kings and Storm of Swords, just two fantastically engaging, suspenseful reads. I am so upset at myself that I didn't go and read these back as they were getting released or in my teenage years before I ever saw the show, because I did remove a lot of the tension, I think, knowing a lot of the major plot points, what was going to happen. Interestingly, because so many ridiculously dramatic and climactic moments happen in A Storm of Swords, my memory for those was much stronger, and so I think I was more on the edge of my seat and engaged throughout A Clash of Kings. I think Clash of Kings was a better read for me overall, and the first half, Storm of Swords, I mean, a little slower. I mean, all of it was great, and so I'm really trying to split hairs here. But I think Clash of Kings might be my favorite novel in the series as of yet, 3 novels in. But Storm of Swords, I just was completely blown away by some of the character development. The Jaime POV was utterly engrossing. And yeah, nothing bad that I can say about either of these. Loved them to death. I'm late to the party, but glad to finally drop in. I also have these nice book club first edition hardcovers, but they aren't as nice to read out of as paperbacks. So I also have these cheap mass markets, and these got a little beat up, but they were fun to read out of, and just these bricks, just loved reading from these, and also doing a lot of it by audio, listening to Roy DeTrice, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but I actually love the audio. I don't love his pronunciations for certain names like Brian or Pattaya, but that really didn't bother me. I think he captures the right vibe. He was really immersive for me, and so yeah, just love listening to these, reading through them as well. Yeah, I talked about Fire and Blood a lot in my mid-month check-in. I was gripped to this entire thing unexpectedly, knowing that it was a fictional history book, but George is so great at just the tiny little details about each character's backstory and just the creativity on display. I was just never bored, and because I didn't know what was coming, I had a lot of moments that I would have had, I think, in the Storm of Swords if I hadn't watched the show, and so it's just utterly gripping. And yeah, I am eagerly awaiting Volume 2 of this. So we get the second half of the Targaryen rulers of Westeros, because that is only the first half. And it was a joy also with this beautiful illustrated edition, just every few pages with a gorgeous illustration. And I really love that format of book, because the same thing is going on in A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. So these short stories, well, they're more like novellas, but there's an illustration on almost every page of this edition, and I loved it. This felt more like cozy Westeros fantasy, and especially the beginning of the first novella, The Hedge Knight. It was just felt a little bit more relaxed and less tense, at least for a little while, than the novels did, and I was loving it, being with the very young, naive Hedge Knight, Sir Duncan the Tall. And so that was an absolute pleasure. It felt kind of like an adult fable, and I cannot wait to finish this out and read those last two, but I think I'm going to save them maybe for when I'm really needing that injection of Westeros. So yeah, 5 stars for all of those, easily. Just so loving my journey with George R. R. Martin so far. And then that takes me to my most disappointing read of the month, of the year, maybe that I can remember, and that is The Tyranny of Faith by Richard Swan. So this is book 2 in his Empire of the Wolf trilogy, and it's so disappointing because I really liked book 1, The Justice of Kings. And I have a suspicion that if I had read this right after I had finished Justice of Kings, that I probably would have liked it, but it's been about a year, and so just maybe it was the wrong read at the wrong time, because I just clashed with the writing style. I was not very immersed with the narrator telling the story retrospectively like I had been with book 1. I did not really enjoy reading about any of these characters. I just didn't find them interesting anymore. And the plotting is now opening up, kind of becoming higher stakes, big empire is in trouble kind of plot. And I was really into the smaller scale plotting where Vomvald and Helena and crew are out in the hinterlands, kind of trying to bring justice and doing their best and having trials, and it was really appealing to me as something different. This felt more conventional, and it also had a side plot that felt very side questy in the middle that took up a lot of pages, that was just leaving breadcrumbs for mysteries that were going to be resolved later, and it just did not work for me. It completely bored me. And yeah, the payoff was not there either at the end to justify that giant side quest in the middle of this book. But yeah, I was really just bored reading this most of the time and not happy by the end. And it was so disappointing. I think I gave it 2 stars. I don't think I'm going to be continuing this. I'll probably just try to read a synopsis to see how it ends, because I'm so soured on this trilogy. But I've seen lots of people love it. I think it was just the wrong read at the wrong time, maybe. But yeah, that was horribly disappointing for me. All right, now I am reading 2 things that I am very excited about at the moment. For the readathon, the Keymark readathon, I'm reading Jade City by Fonda Lee, and I'm about 100 pages in and really into it. It's tense, though. I'm on edge with the family dynamics, with the conflicts between the 2 major clans in Janloon. So I'm very into this so far in the beginning, which is a great sign for the trilogy. But I was not loving the audio for this at all. The narrator, Andrew Kishino, who seems to work for most people, just really was not clicking with me. So I decided to pick up an audio for Tress of the Emerald Sea. And so I'm doing this alongside at the same time as Jade City, and I'm loving this. This is just so delightful. I love this Hoyd narrated story. So 2 very different reads, one for when I'm feeling like I can take a little bit more tension and edginess, and one when I want a bit more of the cozy fantasy feel and the continual Hoyd humor, which typically I do enjoy. So that's what I'm reading right now. And I have to decide on a book of the month, which is very hard. I mean, my favorite single story might be The Hedge Knight from The Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. And it might also be this one, or this one, or this one. I think I have to go for book of the month, Fire and Blood. Yes, that's right. I was so gripped to the page for all these many hundreds of pages. This is why I read fantasy. I love being immersed in another time and place and just being wowed. And yeah, loved everything about this. I want more Song of Ice and Fire, whether it's this or more novels. Can't wait to continue the main novels with the last two that are out. And so yeah, I'm having a wonderful time being in Westeros with George R. R. Martin. So let me know if you're happy about how any of this turned out, or not happy with Tyranny of Faith. But let me know what your favorite reads of the month were. And yeah, I'll catch you next time. And so yeah, just love listening to these, reading through them as well. Yeah, I am